You now know every Scrum meeting. You know what happens in sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. You know who runs what and what to say when it's your turn. But every one of those meetings depends on something you have not seen yet. A single document that feeds the entire system. It's called Product Backlog. And if the meetings are the written of Scrum, the backlog is the source material. Without it, sprint planning has nothing to pull from. Without it, the product owner has no tool for making priorities visible. Without it, every sprint starts with the same question: what are we even supposed to be working on? So, let me make this simple for you. The product backlog is the single place where every idea, request, improvement has to earn its place in line. It is a living, prioritized list of everything the team could work on, ranked by importance. Campaign ideas, stakeholder requests, internal improvements, long-term initiatives, it all lives on one list, and that list has an owner, the product owner. They maintain it, they rank it, they decide what belongs on it and what does not. And that second part is critical. The backlog is not a suggestion box where every idea gets added. The product owner evaluates each request and decides whether it earns a spot. Some ideas get rejected outright because they do not align with where the team is heading. Others get added but sit near the bottom, waiting until they become relevant. That filter is what keeps the backlog strategic instead of chaotic. And here is what happens when that filter breaks. Many teams treat the backlog like a shared document where everyone can add anything. A stakeholder mentions an idea in a meeting, it goes on the list. Someone sends an email request, it goes on the list. So what happens? Within just a few sprints, the backlog has 60 items. Half of them are vague, none of them are ranked with any conviction. And the sprint planning stops being a commitment meeting. It turns into a negotiation meeting where everyone argues for their favorite item because the priorities were never clear to begin with. That's backlog without a filter. Now, here is what makes the backlog different from a regular to-do list. A to-do list is a flat. Everything sits at the same level. You pick whatever feels urgent or whatever someone last asked about. A backlog is ranked. The most important items sit at the top. The less important items sit lower. And then the teams only pulls from the top during sprint planning. That ranking is not the creation, it's the product owner's single most important contribution. Because a ranking forces a decision. It forces the answer to, if we can only do 3 things this sprint, which 3? And most teams struggle not because they lack ideas, they struggle because they lack order. And the backlog provides that order. And it's not a static. It changes every sprint. So after a sprint review, stakeholder feedback creates new items. After a sprint retrospective, process improvements get added. Old items drop in priority or get removed entirely. The backlog is alive. It reflects what the team knows right now, not what someone planned 6 months ago. So let me show you a couple of examples. In marketing, the backlog could be the ranked list of every campaign, content requests, and creative project that team could pursue. The product launch sits at the top, the blog redesign sits in the middle, and the internal style guide refresh sits near the bottom. When sprint planning arrives, the team pulls from the top, not the who emailed last. In HR, the backlog could be the list of every open requisition, policy update, and process improvement. A senior analyst hire sits at the top because the department cannot function without that role. The employee handbook revision sits lower. The team knows what matters most before the planning meeting even starts. In operations, the backlog is every workflow improvement, every vendor issue, and compliance task without waiting for attention. The vendor onboarding overall is at the top. The quarterly reporting template update is further down. The ranking tells the team where to focus without debating every 2 weeks. As you can see, same structure, different departments, one ranked list that feeds every sprint. You are not expected to maintain the backlog, that is the product owner's job, but you are expected to understand it now. Okay? And here is a sentence you can use. Can we look at where this sits in the backlog before we commit to it next sprint? That question keeps the team focused on priorities instead of reacting to whoever spoke last. Okay? Now, here is a small assignment for you. List 5 things your team is currently working on or waiting to start and write them down. Now, put them in order. Which one matters most right now? Which one could wait? Now, imagine your team only has time for 2 of those items in this sprint. Which would you choose? The moment you answer that question, you are thinking like a product owner. You just create a rough backlog. It's not perfect. It does not need to be, but the act of ranking and choosing forces the same discipline the product owner uses every sprint. Okay? Okay. Now you know where the work lives before it enters sprint. Next, you will learn what happens once it does. The sprint backlog and the increment, what are you doing now and what done looks like. That's what we'll cover in the next video.